O'Sullivan on Talk Radio.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Free speech radio. Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
Kevin O'Sullivan on Talk Radio.
Still in that Ibiza beach bar, aren't we? Yeah. This will get people going, won't it? Yeah, party's winding down, sun shining, sun setting. That's the kind of mood I want with the show, you know. No sense of urgency, just a drink in your hand, letting the world go by. That's what you want on a news show. So definitely, that's the music for us. No, it's not. It's rubbish. Good God. It's just hopeless. Every single tune so far tonight, absolute so no thanks. You never know. Still got an hour or so to go, hour and a half, so maybe we will get a good tune in the end, but don't bet the farm on it. Right, we're going to talk about students now. We've got a recent student in the studio from Young Voices UK. He went to Kent University. Connor Tomlinson. Hi, Connor.
Hello, Kevin. I go away for 5 minutes and you've changed the music. The only thing that stayed the same about the show is that you're still squabbling with James Whale. I don't know what to think anymore.
Well, yeah, but maybe James and I will agree on the music tonight that it's rubbish. Now, Durham University. This was a story that I've taken a great interest in. Rod Liddle, friend of this show, big guest only last week. He went to Durham University, South College, there to give a speech. He did it in true Rod Liddle style. You know, I can imagine that. I know that he used certain sort of texts that probably didn't go down a storm with the students, but Rod is not he's not transphobic, he's not racist. The students stormed out, load of students left, and as they left, another guy who's been on this show, former BBC man, I think he worked at the BBC with Rod, a guy called Tim Luckhurst, is now a professor at South College. He shouted in his fury, pathetic. This college stands for free speech. So his view was, you might not like what Rod is saying, but it's a free country. He has a freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Listen to him. By all means, disagree with him. Do not petulantly storm out. We covered this story last night, and by the time the story came up on our schedule yesterday evening, Tim had been forced to, he'd issued an apology. In other words, he'd been forced to apologise to those students, and now he's been suspended. So once again, a university seems to have come down four square against freedom of speech, which, by the way, is against the law in this country. And my question to you is: you were at Kent University not so long ago.
Unfortunately,
I mean. It's this rank intolerance. They're intolerant of any opinion with which they don't agree, and the response to opinions that they don't agree with is fury, rage, and and outright attempts to cancel the lives of the people who've stated opinions that they don't like. To get them fired, to get them ruined, to get them unemployable. I mean, what is it with students today? Why are so many of them seemingly so fascistic?
It's trickled down from their sort of culturally Marxist academics who, after the sort of 60s, the wave of the French intellectuals, or the free speech, quote, riots on the Berkeley College campuses, which were actually a lot of the same sort of stuff we saw now, the intolerance towards other people's opinions. There's a concept called repressive tolerance, and it basically says that we can only be tolerant to things that we like, and we can't be tolerant to things we don't like. It comes from Herbert Marcuse, an Italian communist in the 40s, and that's trickled down to wokeness. And that's what wokeness is. It's downstream from identity Marxism, and that's why it's trickled down 10 years later from when we see the student riots in 2011 all the way now to the corporations. And that was completely percolating all of the institutions at Kent University, from the societies all the way through to the student unions. I would like to say as well, Rod, he actually snuck into one of our student events. I believe it's 2019.
Because he used to live down Kent way, didn't he? He lives up north now. But go on.
Yeah, so we had I believe it was either a Brexit event with Stephen Wolfe, the former MEP.
Yeah, Stephen's often on this show.
Yeah,
nice
I've seen him before, and or it might have been the Konstantin Kissin and Andrew Doyle was at comedy night, and Rod Liddle just came in the back and nobody had acknowledged. And he just started speaking, and immediately everyone snapped round because obviously his voice is very identifiable.
Yes, it is.
And it became a really nice and interesting dialogue between Rod and the speakers in question. I'd love to remember who it specifically was. But Rod is very clearly a sort of staunchly socially conservative, very
Well,
forthright speaker.
actually, Tim Luckhurst and him apparently at one point both worked for the Labour Party. Rod only left the Labour Party, I think, about 18 months ago when he allowed them to expel him. So people think, oh, he's right wing. He's not right wing at all.
Well, I don't presume to know his sort of economic stance, but quite a lot of the Labour Red Wall, for example, are far more socially conservative than the Southern Tory bubble. They just like a bit more larger social safety net spending on things like, HS2 and levelling up and things like that. So I won't profess to know Rod's economic politics, but I know, for example, he's a staunch Brexiteer, as that hilarious clip on.
But I've always said that doesn't make you right wing.
Well, no, but it does make you more for personal economic sovereignty, which obviously the Labour Party aren't for if Angela Rayner thinks collectivism is a social value. Which, again, that's very much the politics of university
Angela Rayner,
campuses.
the soon-to-be ex-deputy leader of the Labour Party.
That was a Freudian slip.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
basically
the Tory
merged
party.
into one.
I bet she wish she was in the Tory Party now, the way the Labour Party are treating her. Let's go back to the students. They purport, I think they think in themselves that they're sort of left-wing and liberal and standing for freedom, but they're the precise opposite. They are intolerant, fascistic, and the practitioners of a kind of Nazi-like cancellation of anyone with whom they don't agree.
Well, if you envision your end point of your particular ideology as an offence-free utopia, then anyone disagreeing with you is just standing in the way of perfection. So you can lie, cheat, steal, even beat people up, as we saw in Berkeley, or, as came very close to it on the University of Kent while I was there, funnily enough, the people who disagree with you. So we had actually our student union at the time in 2019. There was a libertarian group on campus that was inviting people to speakers events, and the student union, and this was printed in the student newspaper, the student union had coordinated with an Antifa chapter in the Feminist Society to bait people into starting fights so they could shut down the things on campus. They graffitied the campus at the time, very much like the Kathleen Stock instance. There was an incident of a speaker who they claimed to be transphobic, and there were loads of protests held about it, and they shut her down. Many instances of no platforming. This is seen across plenty of universities. Kathleen Stock in Sussex, where, funnily enough, I'm meant to be going debating the Green Party in February. Let's see if that event still gets held on, shall we? I know, I don't think, for some reason, I think my mouth might do me a disservice there. But the frustrating thing is, the university's minister about the Kathleen Stock thing, she turned around and said, "Oh, I'm deeply disappointed by this intolerance, etc." Hello, you're in power. You're Conservatives. Do something about it.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what they should do, because when a university stands up against freedom of speech, which so many of them do,
yes.
Like I think Sussex University pretty much did with Kathleen Stock. They do it all the time by agreeing with students that people are no platformed. Durham University are investigating whether or not Rod Liddle broke university rules of what he said. What he said is irrelevant. He didn't say anything incendiary. He exercised his right to freedom of speech, and if a university stands against it, it's actually against the law. I'd like to see our government going for the deans of these universities. Just said, sorry, you just cancelled somebody's speech for no apparent reason apart from the fact that the students don't fancy his or her opinions. That's against the law. We'll see you in court.
Well, this is the frustrating thing about Gavin Williamson during his time as education secretary.
He actually said they were going to go for anyone.
I know, and did the legislation materialise and actually become enforceable? Yeah. No, it didn't. Instead, you've got all of these students and students being done disservice because the academics are striking again this year, a bunch of them. So I started in 2017. I did a master's under lockdown. Fat lot of use that was, because I'm currently in litigation about that. I'm sure I can go into that story in a minute, because that's quite a conundrum. We had a round of strikes, 2 in our first year, I believe 1 in our second year, and then 2 in the third year, and the ones then led completely into lockdown. Absolutely no compensation for either lockdown or any of the missed teaching time. I think I had about 3 or 4 total weeks of teaching per term in my third year. What the hell is the point? Genuinely, it boggles the mind. And if they're going to sit there and say, "Oh, the university isn't paying us enough tuition, or they're not pay equity," 1, my university, 60 million in debt from misspent building allocations, right? 2, a bunch of academics are paid overtime for doing absolutely nothing, teaching rubbish degrees. And also, what sort of money are they wasting on the diversity inclusion programs, for example, that you covered earlier on the show, where it says, oh, wearing second-hand clothes is white privilege. They're just throwing money down the drain.
And did you see, I think it was in Bristol, the students, because the lecturers are going out on strike, so the students went out on strike in support of them. These lecturers, students, if you're listening, they just really badly let you down in the last couple of years by not giving you any live lectures. But academia, generally, I mean, what we're talking about here, both the academics and the students, they're like a kind of cult, aren't they?
They're a festering hive of some sort of politically correct orthodoxy. If you try and dissent from it, they will actually penalise you covertly. And there's no...
ruin your life.
Well, they will... This is the thing with a lot of academics, right? Some of it's very pernicious. And I experienced this firsthand. They will try and tank your grades so that you can never actually enter academia, challenge them, and become the sort of next generation of academics that can reform the institution from within. So
You're appealing against your...
I am, actually, yeah. So my master's grade, this is the most egregious example. I'm working with the Free Speech Union at the moment in no official capacity. They're just telling me how to go through the various internal communications processes for the union. So we haven't had to do anything legal. Got to hold my hands up to that. Currently, I handed in my master's thesis. So I took a look at how in the 20th century, Nietzsche had inspired Nazism and the communists during the Cold War, how those sort of human rights violations informed how America looks at itself.
In other words, there was a right-wing narrative to your thesis. What mark did you get?
So one person gave me a 72, which was a first. Glowing review. The other academic gave me a 2-2, which is a 58. So the massive grade disparity there is should have raised
nothing wrong
alarm
with a
bells.
2-2, mate, I'll tell you.
Well, I was a first student and I'm a little bit arrogant. So what ended up happening, when I examined it, he turned around and said, and I quote, the Soviets did not run concentration camps. That was his actual grievance with what I had written.
I think you'll find they did.
Exactly. And I cited the book where actually it turns out Lenin created the term concentration camp in my essay. So he can't even quibble with it.
So yeah, we await the outcome of your attempts to improve your grade. Well, good luck with that. And good to talk, Connor. I do despair of students, though. They used to be... the future enlightenment, now they're the future disenlightenment. There's no doubt about it. It's terrifying that these people are coming out into the real world. God knows what the next generation is going to be like. Good to talk to you, Connor.
Pleasure.
As always, Connor Tomlinson from Young Voices UK. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and this is Talk Radio.
Online, on DAB, and on the Talk Radio app. Talk Radio.